BetOnline remains your number one source for all of your sports betting this season. Everything from NFL playoffs to pro, college, basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. With live betting options, free contests, live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive your 50% off welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, that's spelled BLEAV, to receive your reward. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on in to another fantastic episode of Bar Talk. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Happy Thursday, happy Friday, happy Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever it is that you are listening to this. I hope you're having a great day. Okay, guys, I'm really excited to have you guys here, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear from our guest today. One of the really cool things about this job that I get to do, that, I feel like our parents would, when the internet first started, they would never say, like, don't become friends with these people that you meet online. But I become friends with a lot of people I meet online. That doesn't mean I don't do background checks. That sounds weird. But anyways, point that I'm trying to make is the guest that we're having on today is known as Backstage Bobbi, Bobbi Dixon, who I got to meet doing the podcast. And she really has kind of created her own unbelievable lane. And she is kind of your like go-to country music content in Chicago. I really don't know of anyone else who's kind of doing what she's doing. And, last year in November, she actually got to go to the AMAs and interview some of the biggest names in country music, which is actually wild to think about. I was so fascinated in her journey and how she got to where she got to that I thought, you know what? I think we need to have her on. And I think people need to hear her story because I really believe that you can do whatever your heart desires. You have to have a little bit of determination, a good amount of self-confidence, a hey, can I call you back in like 10 minutes? I'm recording right now.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, bye. Sorry, guys. And you need to have a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not determination. You need to have determination, but a little bit of stubbornness. I always say this is when my Irish stubbornness comes into place. But Bobbi says something in her interview that I thought was so interesting, and she calls it the third door method. And for anyone who's trying to break into any career or just wants to do something a little bit different, but you don't know how, I highly recommend you hang out to listen to Bobbi's point of view on this because I had never heard it put this way before. But I'm going to tell you that it kind of reminds me of one of the scenes from Goodfellas. Okay. All right. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to get into that. Before we do that, guys, I have just like a few kind of quick call to actions, we'll say. So first off, if this is your first time listening to Bar Talk, guys, seriously, welcome on in. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you are a returning regular of mine, welcome back. I have so much gratitude that you guys are choosing to spend your time with me. Two, if you could hit the follow button wherever you get your podcast from. And then I would love it if you could follow, leave a 5-star rating and a review. It'll take you 60 seconds and it makes this girl's day just better and brighter. And it would seriously mean the world to me. Number 3, to my YouTube peeps, What's up? Hello, hello, hello. Follow the words of my shirt today, which says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." No, but if you are on YouTube, guys, I would love it if you would subscribe to my page. Make sure you leave a thumbs up, and you could leave a little comment on this video. Make sure you follow us along if you're not completely sick of hearing me talk. It is at Bar Talk with Jenna across the board: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And then hang around for the end of my conversation with Bobbi. First segment I like to call Here's a Tip for You. A little bit of advice to get you through your day. Okay. All right. Guys, that is what I got for you. So let's go ahead and get into my conversation with the one, the only Backstage Bobbi. Enjoy. You, I think, are doing something that, like, you created a job that I don't think people knew we needed.
Okay. I'll take that.
I think that's a great way to start it.
Okay.
And what I mean by that for those listening is, you know, country music in Chicago is huge. And when I tell people that, when I've lived in Miami, I've lived in Minnesota, and I meet people doing some of my like sports stuff, and when they hear Chicago, they don't always associate Chicago with country music because we've had, you know, really iconic people, one being Kanye West. So why would Chance the Rapper, you know, so it's like, why would you associate that with country with Chicago? But that being said, you have totally taken your love of country and have just made it into like yours, where I always say, like, you've created something that makes you, and I think will make you have a job like for the rest of your life, which is so amazing. And that's the hope. Yeah, of course. So I guess before we get into, because I want to talk about the third door, how about you kind of tell people, like, take me back to the beginning of how the idea for Backstage Bobbi came about.
Yeah. So before the idea for Backstage Bobbi, there was little Bobbi, who loved country music, even though I grew up in a house that was nothing but like Prince and Guns N' Roses, Flock of Seagulls, AC/DC, Tom Petty. But I have family that we have a 250-year-old family farm in central Illinois. My grandparents grew up listening to country. And so, you know, when I kind of peel back the layers, I think it was, you know, I mean, my papa that handed me the CD. But country music from my earliest memories has been a constant for me. I mean, my last name is Dixon. My dad was trying to be cheeky and got us a Dixie Chick CD and was like, "Oh, it's the Dixon Chicks." And I thought it was stupid, but like I wore that CD to the bone, and I still have it. And I like looked at it the other day, and it is so worn out. I don't even think it could play anymore. But there was something about those songs, and I always joke about it when I interview artists, that I was like singing heartbreak songs and like cheating songs at 6, and I had no idea what they were about, but I felt something. And I think that overall feeling kind of ushered in this lifelong kind of obsession with country music. I mean, growing up in Chicago, like you said, you know what I mean, country music just wasn't as accessible. I mean, we've always had these country radio stations, but I was one of the few kids that I can remember growing up that loved Faith Hill, Martina McBride, Roscoe Flatts, Toby Keith. You know what I mean? That was what I listened to. Meanwhile, like my girlfriends are like, "Oh my God, Hanson and Sync." And like, don't get me wrong, I can like jam to bop just like anybody, but like there was something about country music that felt like it was mine. And so my whole life, I loved it. I dragged my parents to different concerts. Like when I finally turned 21, I got to go experience Joe's on Weed and kind of realized that there was a community here, but I never thought it would be a career. I just thought it would be an obsession, and I wanted a job that could fuel my obsession. So I go to Eastern Illinois. I major in hospitality and sports marketing, and
you wanted to be a wedding planner.
And I wanted to be a wedding planner.
See, that's so interesting to me.
I wanted to be J-Lo. I mean, I wanted to be the wedding planner.
Who doesn't want to be J-Lo?
She looks dope. But yeah, I left school and kind of had a change of heart and fell into nannying, but continued this love of country. Went to Joe's on Weed, Windy City Smokeout, Country Thunder. You mean, every concert I could afford to go to, I went, and I often went by myself. And it wasn't until the winter of 2019 that my sorority sister, Steph Caldwell, called me and was like, "Hey, I've started this women's networking kind of coalition called Manifest Her. A bunch of our other sorority sisters have done it. It's all about you kind of stepping into your power, having a seat at the table, how you can reach that next kind of big milestone in your life if you feel like you've hit this glass ceiling. And that really resonated with me because I was like, God, like I just felt really stuck. But at the same time, I was nervous. You know, a lot of these other girls were lawyers or teachers or small business owners. And so I was really intimidated walking in, but I left realizing that I wanted to work in country music. And I think it was something that I always knew was there, but didn't know if it was accessible. I didn't know that was a job. I figured I had to be in Nashville or I had to go to school for music business. And so I really kind of dug deep for the 6 months after that. And then, COVID hit. And so I didn't get my concert fix. And I was like crying looking at old concert footage because I felt like a part of my soul, like a lot of other people in this world, was broken. So I wake up one day to a text from my friend Steph, and she's like, you should call me on your way to work. So I'm like, okay, like whatever. I'm like, hey, what's up? She's like, I figured out what you're going to do with your life. I was like, okay, do tell.
Please inform me.
Please inform me. And Steph is a smart and kind and, very envisionary, feminine, power forward, extremely successful person. I mean, she has also manifested her career in a very male dominated industry, much like country music, but she's in a different industry. And so I was so interested to be like, okay, girl, like, what do you have for me? Because I knew what she was going to say I would listen to and it would be gold. So she's like, you're going to third door your way into the country music industry. And I didn't really at the time know what that meant, but she's like, you should start an Instagram page, call it Backstage Bobbi, and just see what happens. So I started it, and I remember my first post was me at the 2019 Windy City Smokeout with my vintage Kenny Chesney t-shirt. I'm like, hi, I'm Bobbi. I'm from Chicago, and I love country music. And I remember those first few weeks, I had no idea what I was doing. I did song reviews. I talked about how women were the whole tomatoes in a salad scandal, with women on country radio. And then it kind of grew into this interviewing indie artists. And as I did that, All Country News saw me and was like, hey, we would love for you to come host our podcast. And we built that from scratch. And it's called The Country Confidential. And we've talked to everybody from Lainey Wilson to Matt Stell to Paca McCollum, to Nate Smith, to Neil Towns, to Neil Arts. And it's really been a really cool way for me to like share my love of country music and bond with some of these people. And then I got offered the senior director job over there. So like this whole third dooring, it's like a thing.
So it is a thing. And I will say the third door analogy, because I'm just such a visual consumer, reminds me of that scene in Goodfellas.
Yep.
Where he's taking Karen and he's showing Karen his world, and he doesn't go through the other two doors that we'll eventually talk about. He knows the third door. He created the third door. He's befriended everyone that goes through that third door. And because of the relationships that he's made going through that third door, he gets a table that only comes out for him. Yeah. And you definitely have tables, I believe, and I know, that only come out for you because of your kindness going through that third door. And it's the truth. So for those that don't know, why don't you explain what the third door is?
So a really successful young guy by the name of Alex Benayan wrote this beautiful book about how to be successful in kind of an untraditional way. Mm-hmm. So as also a visual consumer and just a visual person in general, the third door I like to explain kind of as a nightclub. So the first door is your traditional way. You wait in line and you hope that you can get into the nightclub as people funnel in and out. Mm-hmm. The second way I like to call like the VIP door or the second door. And that's, a guy, you're hot, you're a celebrity.
You have money.
You got money, you slept with a bouncer, whatever. And that's how you get in.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, that's where they stop. And I feel like that there's people aren't able to see past the traditional or the privileged. Mm. But what I learned for this book and talking with Steph is there really is another option. And it's the third door. And it is literally ransacking your way through strategy, hard work, and just passion into what you want. And so that's kind of what I did without really realizing it, I think, is I followed my passions and other people kind of picked up on it and latched onto the idea of being passionate about a common thing. And yeah, now I've been on tour buses and done shots with people, and yeah, it's been quite a wild ride. But I want to tell anybody that I don't care if it's, you know what I mean, you're really passionate about baseball and you walk onto a team and you work harder than everybody else, and then you end up with that full ride. Or, you know what I mean, I almost like to think of it as kind of like a Goodwill Hunting. Like he's another really great example of third dooring your way into something. I mean, you can out-passion anybody. You don't have to wait in line at a club or, you know, be related to somebody famous or have fake boobs to get into a club. You can do it for yourself. You just kind of have to have that mindset. And that took me a while, but I think because I led with my heart, I think that door opened a lot wider than I expected.
I feel like for some of the people I know who third door their way in, the one example I think of, and only because I feel like I've been hearing about him and talking about him a lot lately, is Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So Russell Wilson was like cut from his teams and like no one cared about him, and you know, he wasn't really like, he wasn't drafted. I don't remember where he was drafted, but he wasn't drafted high. And I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He is a Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner. And I mean, he's married to Sierra. Like, let's be real. He's third door his way into that one too. But no, I think there's a lot of people like that. And I would even kind of put myself in the third door category too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think I started off in the traditional line of waiting. And then I was like, well, this traditional line is taking a really long time because I keep getting cut off by the people that are in the VIP line. Yeah. So then you get out of the line and then you see if you know anyone who's in the VIP line that can help you out. And then you realize no one wants to help you out on that line. And then you're like, and then you like kind of sit back and then you look. And then you're like looking at the door and you're looking at these two lines. And then that's when you're like, I'm going to go around the block.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I ended up doing for at least for myself, because it took me like a really long time to find anything, and I couldn't find anything. Yeah. And I remember being like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I don't understand why nothing's working. Yeah. I'm applying for these jobs. Like, I think I have people helping me out. And then you, again, question yourself. So that's when I was like, I feel like I have a similar story to you in that sense, where I was just like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. Yeah. And the beauty of what you said is like starting before you're ready. Yeah. Total. So like, so talk about because you started before you were ready. Totally. Did you, like, you obviously, well, actually I shouldn't say that. Did you have some preparation that you had done beforehand, or were you very much just like, I'm going to figure it out?
I still don't think I'm ready.
Really?
And so I remember starting Backstage Bobbi and having zero plan. I mean, people talk about content strategies and algorithms, and I was like, I didn't know any of it. I was posting what I was passionate about and just kind of crossed my fingers and kind of just threw caution to the wind. And I'm like, if it doesn't work out, something will come out of this regardless of if it works or doesn't. I'm going to learn something. And so I think that was intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. But there are days I still don't feel ready for this. And I'll be quite frank, there still is no plan. There still is no calculated plan. My strategy is I share what interests me, and I share what I'm passionate about, and I share what I think is going to entertain and connect with other people. And sometimes that means I don't post for a week. And I think I had to learn that, like, I can't work myself to the bone and compare myself to other people because I'm one person. Right. And so, yeah, I just kind of happens like that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point of like I think it's so easy, especially doing creative stuff or producing or, you know, content, you know, to me, I'm like, content is producing, like it's the same thing. Yeah. But like, it's so easy to get lost in that comparison game, right?
Totally.
And I know even for myself, the month of July, I very much like accidentally took off. Like I didn't mean to, like it wasn't intended. But it happened where, I realized it's the summer. Yeah. No one really gives a shit. Like everyone's busy. Like I was busy with my own life. Oh yeah. I had some personal stuff, you know, happen that like I wasn't feeling passionate.
Yeah,
And I
totally,
was like, and I'm like,
totally.
and to me, I know when I'm faking it on camera, and I don't want to fake it for the people that, like, to me, the one thing that you can't ever get back is time, and it's the one thing I'm asking people for. It's the most valuable currency I'm asking someone for.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to give you something to listen to, I want it to be worth your time. I don't want to be wasting your time
Yeah.
if I'm not in it, and you're like, it's, you know what I mean? It's
I
a
totally
colossal
get it.
waste of
Yeah.
time. But I remember in this, you know, now that it's August and just the last month of taking off, it actually has been really great to, you know, at least for me, like recharge.
Totally.
Because I think it's so easy to get, just to get burnt out doing this stuff.
Yeah. And I agree. And I feel like it's so easy in social media. And, you know, it's really a 24/7 job. And I think that's something that I've had to adapt to is like, country music and country music news and country music content isn't going anywhere. No. So like if I don't do something on a Saturday, I've had to kind of grapple with that because I mean we really are a one person show here. So, but I've just learned so much about I think myself, and I've learned that we have such common ground through music and just through art in general. And I've loved talking with these artists because I'm like, man. Because then, like, a gentleman I talked to this morning named Wyatt McCubbin, you should go check him out. He's phenomenal. But he is from Ohio, small town kid, didn't really know what he wanted, but knew he loved music. And I feel like that common thread is woven through myself and to everybody I've talked to. It's been this just kind of overarching feeling of like, I love this. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And now he has cuts with Cody Johnson. He's going to be out on tour with Cameron Marlowe, has cuts on his album. And he's just like a dude from Ohio. So I feel like you find a lot of that in every day. I feel like it's so easy for you to be like, wow, she's doing or he's doing so great. And he's had all of these amazing things. But that's what I also think is the problem with social media is like we only see those highs. Like nobody... You mean, I don't know of anybody getting on there and being like, today was really shitty and I haven't written a good song in a month and I'm broke and my girlfriend just left. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't see that. And I think what's so interesting to me is to realize that all of these country artists, whether it's been Lainey Wilson or Parker McCollum or even Josh Turner, everybody's fallen on their ass. And so I think it's just kind of humbling to be like, huh. You're telling me those things because sometimes I feel like that too.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a few good points. The first one being, I don't know what I want to do, but I know that my heart, it's almost like your heart sings in a way that it's never sung before.
Totally.
And it feels so fucking good that I don't know what it is, but I know I have to do it.
Absolutely.
And and it's kind of one of those things where like, I'm like, I'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll just figure
That's exactly what this whole thing is.
I'll just figure it out. But the commonalities, and I think now I think the beauty of social media, and again, there's with good comes bad, and it's the balance, and it is what it is. But the beauty of it now is the being able to connect and to find that what is the spine of Bar Talk, and the spine of Bar Talk is we have more in common with each other than we have different. Absolutely. And you're seeing that day in and day out, interviewing some of the best in country music or some of the up and coming in country music is that like I fall too, and that's okay. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna stumble and then I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put it into something.
100%. Yeah. And I feel like it's for me, I almost appreciate that person and that artist and their artistry more because as a fan, I'm able to go back and listen and be like, I can feel what they're feeling more. After talking with them, I can be like, oh, this is how their gears were turning. This is how everything was working. And so I feel like it gives me just an overall more of an appreciation for the genre, but for the person, because I feel like it's so easy for people to be like, there's this like huge wall between celebrities and artists and everything, and like they're put on such a pedestal. But we all
see each other eye to eye.
We all see each other eye to eye. We all put our pants on one leg at a time, and I feel like at the heart, that's kind of what country music is. We're all the same. You know,
you remind me of, or not remind me of, but your one story I remember you telling me was when you interviewed Russell Dickerson at Wish Fest.
Yes.
Okay, and I want you to tell people the story and the meaning behind his famous line in Home Sweet Home. Home Sweet. Do you remember it, or should I tell it?
crap. Do I remember this?
So it was basically he has this beautiful part.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It literally, because after you told me that story,
yes,
I can't listen to the song the same way, and I actually get emotional every time I hear it now in like the best way possible.
Yeah. So he has this awesome song called Home Sweet. He has a beautiful wife, Kaylee, and a new son, Remy, and I got to talk to him a little bit about being a father and what that means to your artistry. How are you a working parent, but not only a working parent, but like a working parent?
Yeah.
And so he wrote this song Home Sweet with Charles Kelly of Lady Antebellum, and he's talking about how they were broke and they had nothing, but then they had this child and they're in this home and it's beautiful, and he's talking about 2 pink lines and a white picket fence, and he's like, he can't even get through that third verse of that song without crying. And it was true, he did cry.
Yeah, he did.
So I feel like it's moments like that where you're able to go back and listen to their song and it's not bullshit. No. I feel like a lot of these songs, they seem, and I know for me as a consumer for a really long time before I started interviewing these artists, they seemed very manufactured. Nashville is a songwriting factory. I mean, it really is.
It is. I mean, it's the business of Nashville. Like, it just is.
But I also think it's moments in talking with, like, Josh Turner about his Christmas album and having his kids on there and why that's important, and talking with Russell about what Home Sweet is to him, and talking with, Lainey Wilson about who lived in a trailer behind a freaking grocery store in Nashville for years because she had that pull. And I feel like it's that pull and it's that commonality that kind of takes that idea of that machine away, for me at least. And I feel like I'm able to appreciate country music at a deeper level than maybe your average consumer. And I'm hoping that then we're able to kind of bring that out to the masses, so people are like, oh my God, they like what they're singing about really did happen. And it's not just like this facade.
And I think what country does the best at, and I really think it's why, at least for me, so my first love of country music was Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith.
Yes!
That was the song, but I should also rewind and say it was Pat Galvin's, I believe, 10th or 11th birthday party, where his giveaway to all of us was a mixtape of country songs. So this was my introduction to country music.
I need to meet this person.
Pat, thank you.
Hi,
I don't know if you're listening to this, but Pat, thank
Call
you.
Me.
But so it was like, I remember it was... oh my God! Like Gretchen Wilson was on there.
Yeah. Redneck Woman.
It was Redneck Woman, and that's the one song that's sticking out. I'm like totally drawing a blank on the others. Tim McGraw, Probably Live Like You Were Dying. But then it was me and my sister started listening to it, and then we got my mom and my dad into it. So that was the song, and then it was Toby, and then it was Toby Keith, and then it was Tim McGraw's Live Like You Were Dying album.
Oh yeah.
And then it turned into this just snowball effect in my family, at least it really has, because I think what country does, at least for me, and again, I'm biased, so I understand that I'm totally biased saying this, but country has this way of like connecting us all with like really honest lyrics. Yeah. And to me, it's what connects us as human beings, and it's storytelling. We love storytelling. We love connectivity. And there's something about certain songs, like you said, like you're crying to a heartbreak song and you don't even know why. I can't even begin to tell you the amount of songs that I've listened to, and I'm like, why the fuck am I emotional right now?
Yeah.
And it like hits a chord in you that you like don't even know why, but you're like, I'm feeling some type of way right now.
Exactly. And when I was interviewing Wyatt this morning, I can't even remember exactly what he said because I blanked out. But I always love to ask this question to all of my guests. Mm-hmm. I've asked it to every single person I've talked to. Mm-hmm. And I always tell them, and I get them like worked up about it and like whatever. I'm like, I ask this every time. And I always say like, this is your answer. Like there's no correct answer. And so like they're all kind of hyped up. And then I'll say their full name. So like when I asked Parker McCollum, I was like, Parker McCollum. And then I go, how do you define country music? And it is my favorite question to ask because you get every single person's perspective. And it often like draws up a memory or a commonality, or they're like, crap, I don't know. I've gotten that a few times. Like, can we come back to that question? I've gotten that more times than I can count. But the main thread through all probably 120 of those answers is real life storytelling and emotion. Like if I had to make like a flow chart of the most common words, it would be those. And I feel like it's real life for a real person And it's so funny to me to kind of watch. I always call it like the pendulum swinging. I've said that since I've started this, is that country music was huge when I was growing up. Early 90s, 2000s, 2010s, when I was in college. It was huge. And then it kind of took this bro country break. And people liked it, and it gained popularity, but it kind of was like over manufactured, in my opinion, and kind of like took this standstill. And now I feel like the pendulum is like back with full freaking force. And I feel like, one, for me, a lot of the music coming out right now is super authentic and super nostalgic. Yeah. So for me, I'm excited about it. And then I think about like new kids coming up, the sound, this pedal steel, these real lyrics, these hooks that kind of make you go, ooh, you know what I mean? It's new to them. And so I feel like country music and the stories are just opening up this whole new world. You know what I mean? It was the #1 most streamed genre in the United States this year, and Chicago was the #1 most streamed city for country music on Spotify this year.
It's the truth, and I think every time I go to because again, you know me, I'll be working the Smokeout. I've worked Smokeout since its second inauguration, so not the initial inauguration, but the second year. I've worked it every year since, and it was my boss at the time, I was working at RJ Grunts. He's like, Jenna, I know you like country, right? And I was like, I love country. He's like, do you want to work this festival? And I was like, yeah. And I've done it every year. And even though I'm not working for the company anymore, I was like, hell yeah, I want to work for you guys. You're kidding me? I get to see fucking Willie Nelson. Like, come on. Like,
a little bit of Turnpike.
I mean, like, that is a total bucket list thing. But again, going back to what you said with Chicago, and I think what people forget about Chicago sometimes is we are in the Midwest. We just happen to be a big city. But Chicago is a bunch of small towns. Like, you know, it really is. And so I try to explain this to people when they come and when they visit. I'm like, Chicago is a community of small towns. We just happen to be 10 minutes away from downtown and one of the world's largest skyscrapers. But like, that's Chicago. And that doesn't surprise me at all that we are #1 because, and I bet you get this too, a lot of artists love coming here to play.
It's so funny. So a lot of people that I've talked to, I'll be like, oh, I'm Chicago based. And they'll stop me. They'll be like, Chicago is my #1 streaming city. Why? And they are shocked to find out that we have such a great, you know what I mean, infrastructure here. And like, I hand that over to people like Ed Warm, you know what I mean? Our great country radio station over at US 99 that's been around for 3 decades. Yeah. You know what I mean? People to bring those in and not only like play the music, but bring the music here. Right. And so I think a culmination of that has just allowed people to really thrive and find community. I mean, we even have a really amazing local country community here with people like South City Revival, David Quinn, people like that who are Chicago Southside guys who are playing country music.
And being a Southsider, I can say the South Side has a lot of that small town feel that a lot of those men and women who are from the bayou, from the trailer, like again, I say it to people and I just think about like when I lived in a small town in Minnesota and I would talk about Chicago and I would talk about Bridgeport and I would just talk about growing up here. My coach looked at me. And he was a guy who lived in this small town of population. It was 14 or 15,000 people. And he said, Jenna, you talk like you know everyone. I said, because I do. Yeah. Because I do. Yeah. I said, because Chicago is a small town within a big city. Oh. And it has a lot of those because we're so neighborhood based and you have those strong communal ties. It ties back to what country music talks about, which is community, which is like all of those things that like play into it. And it makes me happy that like people love to come here and play because there's again, I can only say this as someone who's played here, but I always feel like there's a different energy that certain artists
100%.
Bring when they come here because they know we're going to give it back to them.
100%. I mean, there's been so many artists that were like, oh, my favorite show was playing at Joe's on Weed, or oh my God, playing Smokeout, or Carol's Pub, you know what I mean? And I think it's because we have people, you know what I mean, like Ed and other people that have created this community to bring this energy. Because, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've been to Joe's and people are artists up on stage from, you know what I mean, new guys like Muscadine Bloodline all the way up to Old Dominion that was just here a couple weeks ago before Kenny Chesney that say Joe's is their favorite place to play. Mm-hmm. One, because the people that run it are phenomenal. they wouldn't come if the fans weren't there.
Right.
And this has been an institution for
God.
almost 3 decades now,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody from Eric Church to Miranda Lambert to Keith Urban to Dirk Bentley to freaking Chris Stapleton with no beard has been on
Thomas
that stage.
Rhett has been on that
Rhett, Dan and
stage.
Shay, I saw.
Yeah.
So everybody has come through there. And I think we're such a little secret gem.
We are.
And I freaking love it.
You do love it.
One
of my favorite stories about Ed Warm, and again, like Ed's been on the podcast, and he's one of those guys that I think is just, he loves what he does, and he does it with such passion and such heart, and he never does it for the spotlight. Like that's not Ed. Like from the encounters that I've got to meet, that's not Ed. My favorite story that I got to read about Ed was it Chris Young or Lee Bryce? I can't remember which artist it was. But again, a lot of these guys, when they come into town, like, they don't have fancy tour bus.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are traveling by van.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of hours in a car.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they do,
Bunch
it's
of smelly dudes.
dudes. And I wish I could remember who the artist was. I can't remember, but.
Is this the David Nail donut story?
Yes, it's the David Nail donut story. And again, David Nail,
country icon,
comes there. And
he was with Billy Currington.
Okay, yes. Yeah. And basically Ed comes onto their bus or whatever it is, and he's like, welcome to Chicago, guys, and gives them donuts. And again, I've learned this from Ed too. It's like, do you guys need a place to shower? Do you guys need this? Do you guys need that? Those little things, God, they go
set
a long
them apart.
Way. And it goes back to like, I feel like I'm turning into my mother, but it's like, I feel like I'm turning into Kathy, Mom, I love you.
Mel, hello. Yeah.
But it's like, be kind.
Totally.
Show kindness. It goes a long way. And you think about that kindness that Ed has showed, the kindness that people in Chicago have shown to these artists year in and year out is what makes them want to come back. It's what makes this Chicago country music scene grow and thrive. It's the reason why, I mean, I want to say the Windy City Smokeout, after like not even 5 years, was nominated for like one of the best country festivals within the ACMs, the ACM Awards.
Yeah,
which is
and
like,
I believe won. And then on top of that, Ed's won like 5 or 6 times, and Joe's has won Club of the Year.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's really impressive that we have this like hidden gem of a world here. Okay, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit because I want to get back to you, and I want to get back to like everything that you've done, because I know you and I could go down this like rabbit hole of talking about this for hours, because we already do.
Welcome to the 3-hour episode of Bar Talk.
Of Bar Talk with Bobbi.
Yeah. I'm taking over.
That's that. I'm fine with that. No, but so I think, one of the really great parts about where you're at right now is like, you're just getting started, and I love this for you, because I really, and you said this kind of earlier, is like, you don't know where you're going with this. I think there's beauty in the not knowing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think there's beauty because in the not knowing, you end up being really present in every moment that you're in. So let's kind of backtrack a little bit to, these 2-ish years that you've been doing this now. Obviously, you've had some amazing highs, interviewing Parker McCollum, Lainey Wilson, being able to introduce the artist at fucking Country Thunder. Like, oh my God. Like, that's a huge thing to have happened in seriously such a short period of time. And again, it's like now where it's like, okay, those blood, sweat, and tears, they're finally paying off.
Absolutely.
Again, with social media, we don't always like to show the like not great sides and the tough sides. Can you talk about a moment within these last 2 years that you were like, I don't know?
Yeah. There's not been a lot of them, but one sticks out. I've always had imposter syndrome. Thank you, Dr. Becky, for helping me realize that. But there was another podcast in town, and it really threw me for a loop. And I was like, I'm done. Like this, I'm done. I was ready to cash it in. It'd been a year. I'm like, nothing's really happening. It was a good run. And my friend kind of looked at me. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's like, you're so good at this. You're so yada, yada, yada. I don't want to, you know what I mean, go on and on about what she said. But I think I really had to pick myself up by my bootstraps and ask myself, why is country music and why is this so important for me? Why have I put up with all these crazy long hours? I was in grad school. I was nannying. I was running Backstage Bobbi. I was helping do Country Confidential. I was working 60 hours a week. I mean, it was insane. I'm like, why did I do this? Because country music makes me feel something. And I think, yeah, I have I get a no, or I get ghosted by a record label, or I lose an interview because my phone was full of memory, didn't have enough memory. Things like that happen, but I think it's important to highlight those moments and not make it look like my story has been the yellow brick road the whole time, because it really hasn't. I think once I kind of, after our conversation at Bub City, and kind of went, okay, whatever will happen, I feel like that's when those lows started to become a little less low. And it was kind of like, okay, this happens for a reason. But yeah, I feel like the comparison trap has always been my low, comparing myself to either other country accounts, when a lot of these other bigger companies have tons of people working for them, and it's just me.
Social media is a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
I always say, I feel like I'm in this, like, I do this weird dance, right?
Yeah.
Where I am like a horse on the track that has my blinders on, and I look at no one but what is in front of me. Yeah. And then there are times where you have to take the blinders off.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's really beneficial, I think, to hear. I'm always open to feedback, is what I say, like constructive feedback. But I'm open to it from people where it's coming from a good place.
Yeah. And
also from people who are in the same arena as me.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to the motherfuckers who are all the way up in the nosebleeds.
Oh yeah.
It's just not happening.
No.
I'm not listening to you. But all of that being said, the comparison game on social media can definitely be, it's a lot. And I think there's like something really powerful about like putting your phone down and having limited time, and also realizing too, like, we all have, like the more you talk to people, and again, you've seen this, is like a lot of people feel this way, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel this way. It's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of people feel this way. I mean, I started the interview process with a lot of independent artists, people that don't have a major label deal. And I feel like there's a common thread between all of those people feeling the imposter syndrome, but also some of the bigger people I've talked to that have huge label deals, that have 1 billion streams, that, you know what I mean, have tons of money and a great backyard and go on tour and have great buses, deal with that on a daily basis. And I'm not going to name names because I don't want to air dirty laundry, but there are people that you would be shocked to learn deal with their self-esteem. And I think it's just such a humbling reminder that we all trudge through the shit at some point in our life, and just keep going what you're passionate about. I love this so much, and I love learning about everybody's stories. I've been able to meet people like you. I've been able to do things that I never even thought were possible, and meet people that I freaking met Darius Rucker, and my first ever concert was Hootie and the Blowfish when I was 3 at freaking Ravinia with my parents. So to be able to tell him that was, you know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those crazy moments. And, people are like, oh, how did you do this? Or, my parents like to brag on me, or my friend Chris Wexel that runs the Coyote was bragging on me at Country Thunder, and had all these people ask me, and it seems super surreal. But I think the common thread is, do what you love. Put all your effort into it. Know that you're going to trudge through some horrible shit. But if you're truly passionate about it, like, you'll learn how to run through the shit. And that's kind of what I've learned to do. I've learned to run through shit. Oh, God, that is a bad visual. I'm taking a drink.
Take a drink. Oh, my God. Oh, that's hilarious. No, I mean, it's, I just, the only answer I can come up with to that is yeah. And because it's the truth. I mean, if you love it, you find a way.
Yeah. And
anything, again, it's like there's a reason why certain sayings are corny. It's because they're right. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
There's 100%. A reason. And, it just makes me happy. Like, I don't know what else to say besides it just makes me happy to see you doing this. And to be honest, like, I don't even want to ask you this question because I genuinely feel like you haven't even thought of it, which isn't a bad thing. But like,
I'm intrigued.
But again, I'm intriguing you. So I guess I'll ask, no timestamp. Like, 'cause I hate asking questions with timestamps, but like, where do you see you going with this?
Yeah.
Like, have you taken a look down the road a little bit to see?
Yeah. I try not to look too I try not to look too far down the road. I am such a romanticist, but I'm also an anxious worrier. So I feel like the culmination of those can be really detrimental. I really just try to focus on what I can control right now. But if I had to be like grandiose, where do I want to be in 10 years? I want to be the girl that when Thomas Rhett and Parker McCollum and Chris Stapleton and Dierks Bentley and Ashley McBride come through Chicago, they come and chat with me. They have a slice of pizza. They have a PBR, possibly a shot of Malort, if they're up for it. I just want to be able to showcase the people that I love because I feel like country music time and time again has proven its love for me. It's proven that I can get through anything. It's been there for me through breakups. It's been for failures. It's been there for happy times. And I just want to show people that it can be there for them too. And plus, who doesn't want to have a freaking beer with Ashley McBride? I mean, that's on my bucket list. But yeah, I just want to be able to showcase these people's stories in a way that maybe you wouldn't expect, because I think at the end of the day, we all shit sitting down and we all put our pants on the same way. And I think that sharing those stories helps people, especially people like me, appreciate the artistry more.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the question that you like to ask.
Ah, damn it. I've never thought about this.
Yay! All right. Bobbi, Backstage Bobbi Dixon.
Yeah.
Because I still don't know how to. That's how you're titled in my phone.
You're Jenna with a beer can by it.
That works too. How do you define country music?
Emotion. It's going to evoke an emotion in you, whether it makes you want to drink, whether it makes you want to cry about a boy at midnight and drive your car to your mom's and cry, whether it makes you a little horny and want to get it on. It gives you an emotion, and it brings you back. I think of the song I Go Back by Kenny Chesney. That is the most true song. I mean, there's lots of true songs.
Yeah.
But I think of that because I hear these songs, especially like 90s songs that come up on my rotation, or when US 99 does 90s weekends, I can sit there and I go, oh my God. I remember exactly where I was I remember where I was when Dirt Road Anthem, the Brantley Gilbert, Jason Aldean song came out. And the fact that I still know all the words to that rap part. I was in a really smelly bus at Eastern Illinois on the way to farm dance or barn dance, rapping that. I mean, it evokes an emotion in you, whatever it is. But it's the stories that create that emotion that I think country music has become so many different things now. And I think when you peel back all the layers, it's not necessarily how it sounds. It's not the instrumental or the rhythmics. It's the story that can relate to everybody. And that's why I'm so excited about country music right now, because I feel like we've opened up the floodgates and people from all different walks of life are to be like, yeah, I grew up in the country. And I think of people like Haley Witters, who grew up in Iowa. And when you think of Iowa, you don't think of country music. But Iowa is literally a giant cornfield. Yeah. And she's like my Midwestern princess. And she makes me feel something. And I feel like it doesn't matter if you're from Compton or you're from frickin' the sticks in Louisiana. Everybody has that common thread around emotion. And I think that's what country music is. Thank you.
Okay, I will end if there's anything else you would like to say, or if there's anything else you'd like to ask.
Chris Young, my goal growing up was to move to Nashville and marry you, and I'm really hoping that that's a possibility.
Is he single?
I think so.
Chris.
Call me. I'll be in Nashville in October.
I can't with you. All right, well then let's do this. Cheers to going through the third door and seeing where life takes you.
I love it. Cheers, girl.
Cheers. For anyone who is in the Chicagoland area, and if you ever find yourself at any country concert ever, I promise you there is like a 95% chance that you will find Bobbi there. She does a great job of the content that she covers, and I'm very, very grateful to know Bobbi to say that, and I really appreciate her friendship. Okay, I said I had a tip for you. Here's a tip. It's okay to, not be okay. I know that's not a great tip, but I think it's a good reminder that throughout life, your emotions are going to ebb and flow. Some days you're going to feel like you're on top of the world, and some days you're going to feel like you can't get out of bed. And it was a quote from, oh God, what is his name? He was just nominated for an, oh God, give me 1 second. I'm going to find this for you guys. Okay. Okay. So it was Jeremy Pope, guys. All right. An actor. And he was talking to his therapist and basically saying how he feels like his highs are so high and his lows are so low that he wishes that he could just be in the middle a little bit. And his therapist said back to him, if you ever look at a heart monitor, you have these highs and these lows. And if you're in the middle, you flatline, and you don't want to flatline. So I think it is that reminder to all of us that on the days where we feel really low, know that you're gonna go back up. Okay. And it's okay to be low, because when you're at low points in your life, one, I think you end up learning a lot about yourself and a lot about things that you needed to know. And two, when those highs come, you get to appreciate them that much more. Okay, guys, that is all I have for you today. I thank you. I thank you all for hanging out with me. And I hope you all take the time today to realize we have way more in common with each other than we have different. Until next time, take care.
Hey everybody, it's closing time. You don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here.